Join us by the fireside for our evening tales of true life's strange experiences with things that lie beyond the veil of the known and into the misty depths of the mysterious and unknown.
The House of Death. So this has some holes in it because I was actually very young, and it still makes me very afraid to this day to think about this. And I just keep thinking that I forgot some things that that were just too traumatic almost. But anyway, this is what I remember so far. When my family first decided to move to Idaho, we were running around house hunting. It was my mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, and uncle. We went looking into the deep parts of Idaho, and I had already been very afraid of the dark by this time, and such things from quite a young age. So we pulled up to this house. It was secluded, and it was mansion-like. It was so big, and it was in the woods. There weren't a lot of houses around, but my dad is a huge fan of exploring, and he really wanted to check this out. So Uncle needed to pee, so he just walked over to the bushes to pee, and on the way back, Mom told him to try the handle and, it wouldn't unlock. So then Brother and Dad went through the yard to look for another entrance, and they came back, but, they didn't find anything. Then Brother tried that same door that had been locked, and it just suddenly opened. So Sister and Aunt and Mom and I were all really freaked out by that. But Dad and Brother and Uncle were like, well, yeah, great, must be a reason for it. But, they weren't really that freaked out. So Dad stays outside to look around some more while the rest of us start to actually walk around the inside of the house. Inside this house is a huge foyer, and it's kind of like a perfect circle, and in the middle of it there was this dead black bird. Behind the foyer there were these huge glass windows, and you could clearly see some burnt cars in the back. One was specifically a burnt prison bus. Okay, maybe it's just a paintball course or something. Dad does paintball, I say to myself. To the left and right of the foyer, there are two giant staircases. And under the left staircase, there is a staircase that goes down to a basement. All of a sudden, my dad yells for us all to come outside. Outside in the front yard, that we totally missed for some reason, were headstones that were dated back to 1805 to finishing in 1913-14. Some of them were babies who died as young as 3 months old. But I was too young to understand what this was all about. My dad and brother even got a picture of them doing a thumbs up with them, and my mom has it on their computer. I actually happen to think that it aggravated the spirits. Anyway, finally, we all started to head inside. My twin sister and I go to the right, my mom and aunt go to the left, to this giant master bedroom, and Uncle and Dad and Brother all go and scope out the back and the kitchen and stuff. I remember there was a giant four-poster bed in the master bedroom that Mom and Aunt were in, and the walls were kind of green wallpaper that was, kind of peeling off and moldy and stuff. The house was extremely cold, even though it was July, in 2010. And, outside it was warm, but in there it was just cold for some reason. So my sister and I still have some trauma over what we saw in that place. Where we were at, there were bedrooms in this hall, one to the left and one to the right, pink and blue. Keep in mind that I'm around 10 or 11, so I hadn't seen a lot of bad things yet. In the pink room, there were beautiful decorations, and there was even a rocking chair. There was a tattered bed, ripped up carpet, and lots of dark stains on it. In the blue bedroom, there were these, glow in the dark star stickers, some faded blue paint, torn up furniture, and a mirror. My sister was looking in the closet when a figure suddenly appeared behind her and I screamed. A handprint rested on the mirror and we just ran towards our mom. The house at that point seemed to be getting colder. We really noticed that. So we all decided to regroup and we just headed towards the basement area, getting out of those upstairs room. So mom, aunt, and I stayed, on the middle level, the floor level, while brother, dad, uncle, and sister all decided to go down to the basement. It was a spiral staircase going down, and then there was this big metal door. My dad yelled for my sister to go to my mom when they got down. And this was the conversation that ensued. Dad: Carrie, Mom. Take Laura, sister. Mom: Why? Dad: There's something down here. Go with Tracy, Aunt. And the girls to the car. Something smells dead. My mom started shaking, and we all booked for the car. After about 15 minutes of them not coming out, we went back. Mom: Dave, what's going on down there? Silence. Dad: Carrie, go now! My dad has never shot up the stairs faster. He's 6'4" and 300 pounds in weight. My brother scrambled up the stairs and my uncle was breathless behind them. He screamed for us to get in the car and we went. Hearing your parents freak out like that is really terrifying, believe me. After we drove for a while and Dad finally calmed down, and felt like we were safely out of that area, Dad said that there was something down there that looked like a dead body wrapped in the middle of a locked wine cellar. The whole basement just reeked of death, and there were these dead bugs and animals everywhere. My brother was looking into the window of this door to the wine cellar when something banged against the window and my uncle was just knocked off his feet. The door to the basement shut behind them, and it got ice cold. They were trying to get out when all of us went back inside. And then the door finally just suddenly opened and they got out. We've never gone back. My dad is a field appraiser for an insurance company and he drives around Idaho. He's never been able to find that house again, even though he's looked for it. So there's actually more to this, but it's as if part of me can't remember it or chooses not to because it was so traumatizing back then. To see the look on my parents' face, looking like they, terrified, was very, very traumatic for me as a child. And this experience is what convinced me that the paranormal is real. The thing with the knife. When I was younger, I was around maybe fourth grade. I used to sleep with my door open. And out the door is a very short hallway that you can cross from my room to my parents' room in about just 4 steps, really. On the other side of the hallway from my room is my parents' room, and on the right side wall is the bathroom, and the left goes out to the dining room, living room, and, they were basically one large room. I awoke one day at about 12 a.m. and I saw a silhouette of my uncle leaning his back along the doorframe on the right side. And I was sure it was him because it was, just the right shape of his body and everything. As a note, he wasn't dead. He was alive at the time and still currently is. So I said, "Why are you standing there, Uncle? You can come in. I know who you are. We're family." He just stood there for a good 2 minutes before moving. As he slowly came towards me, instead of walking, he started to crawl along the floor like a shadow would. I just freaked out. I didn't know what was going on, and he just got closer and, just crawling along on the floor. And then I noticed that, he was like a shadow, and on the floor, it was no longer him. but was instead a small child. It had changed into a small child, and it had what seemed to be a big kitchen knife in its hand. I saw this and I just screamed at the top of my lungs for someone to come and help. My mother blasted through her door, turned on my light, and asked, "What's wrong?" Because of how the light was angled exiting my room, a small corner by her bedroom door was still covered with darkness. There, it was standing, not moving, as if unable to escape because the light blocked its path. But I could clearly see it, bright as day, this shadow. It was no longer anything, just a shadow. I pointed, crying in absolute terror, saying, "It's right there. Can't you see it?" She said, "There's nothing there." She calmed me down and closed the door. And ever since then, I've slept with my door closed. So, anyway, fast forward to when I was in middle school, where we moved to a new house, the one I'm actually still living in now. I decided for some stupid reason, well, it's been years now and I'm older and it's a new house. I was sharing a room with my new baby brother, and I just wanted to try something, and I didn't think that that experience would repeat itself. So anyway, I slept with the door open that night, just kind of inviting it to happen exactly the same way it had when I was a kid. I don't know why I did this, but it was like something I guess I was just trying to test it. So anyway, I kind of invited it inside my room again. Um, And then all of a sudden, this same uncle silhouette, same transformation into a child with a knife, stuck in a dark corner in the hallway when my mother came. Again, I called out to her. She still couldn't see it. So ever since then, I've decided I'll never sleep with the door open for the rest of my life or unlocked. That has stuck with me ever since, and it makes me personally believe in the paranormal. And it's just really weird that it happened in the exact same way the second time I asked it to, and in a different house too. It's like it's something that's around me, perhaps. I don't know. And I don't care if no one believes me, that's fine. I don't need anyone to believe me. I know what I saw and what I experienced, and it definitely traumatized me for life. The haunted shirts. So, the home I live in, we have some paranormal activity that goes, it kind of happens on and off in that house. The most significant events that I can remember lasted for a period of about 2 years, and it happened when I owned a dead woman's shirt. For context, my dad's best friend lost his wife about 7 years before I was gifted these shirts. There were two of them. One was her favorite, and the other was the shirt that she was in when she lost her battle to cancer. Why did he keep that one? I wish I knew. From minute one, I knew there was something wrong in the house after we got those shirts. I walked in from school one day and didn't even have to look at the shirts to know that something was in my house that shouldn't be there, a presence, kind of, a sort of dread or something. The activity centered around the shirts. People got sick holding the red one, the one she passed in. Nausea, migraines, anxiety spikes. I wouldn't tell them anything about the shirt, but for some reason they would be drawn to that particular shirt when they see it in the closet, and they would touch it, or get hold of it, and they would suddenly start to feel sick within a few minutes. The other shirt was fine, and it had actually kind of a calming energy to it. Well, anyway, this activity started when I started feeling like I was being watched too. I couldn't sleep in my room anymore. I already had issues with sleeping in my room, but I had resolved them up until that point when everything became intensified after I brought these shirts into the house. Then things would start to move and disappear, and they would show up in random places a week later, like my makeup showing up in my closet or my glasses being in the laundry room. I started also having weird, vague dreams where I had no face, and they're actually quite terrifying. There was even one dream I had where something just turned all the lights off, and then when I woke up, the lights all turned on. I had 3 bouts of sleep paralysis while owning these shirts, and that's something that I had never in my life had before. I also had my hair pulled several times. I started hearing something that was mimicking my parents' footsteps and voices and coughing when I was alone in the house. I remember walking past the master bedroom one day, for example, and hearing my mom cough, only to find the room empty and her car gone. On multiple occasions, I also woke up to my name being spoken in my ear, and once, what sounded like someone clapping. When my dad's friend passed away last year, I grabbed the shirt his wife died in and placed it under his arm and held his hand until he passed. The activity has since stopped. Rest in peace. But at least you're together now in the afterlife, and she's not causing problems in my house anymore.
I know you can't see me, but I'm standing right beside you.
Bride. I grew up in a house that was built in the early 1900s in a now extremely small community. But it was actually quite a bustling town in the late 1800s until the railroad decided to go through a town 12 miles away. 12-foot ceilings, it has huge rooms. The hallway was 10 feet wide and 40 foot long and hardwood. And we used to actually roller skate down there. There were big windows above the door, and there were fireplaces in every room, which we ended up taking out for safety reasons. My room was on the second floor on the left side of the hall from the front door, which was never used. I used to sleep with my bed opposite of the door and the door open. When I was in sixth grade, I had this weirdest dream. This beautiful blonde young woman named Christine came to visit me. She was wearing a wedding dress that looked like something from, times past, like the old days. She would sit on the edge of my bed and we would just talk about all kinds of things. This wasn't a reoccurring dream, as each time she came, we just talked about different things. So it was like we were meeting, every time, um, and so this relationship was kind of growing between us. Anyway, this happened over the course of a couple of months, where she would come frequently, and she would come like maybe 3, 4 times a week. Then, one day, she arrived and she was crying. She said that he had found her and she had to leave, that she was sorry that she brought him here. When I asked her who she meant, she said it was her husband. He had murdered her on their wedding night and then killed himself, and now she's been running from him ever since. And then she just left. The next night, I had a different kind of dream. In the dream was a guy pacing in the hall. He walked by a few times and was kind of muttering to himself. He stopped in front of my door and he turned to look at me. Remember, my bed faced the door, and he had no eyes, just black holes that started to turn red as I looked at him. And as he looked at me, he began to scream. I woke up terrified, to say the least, and I stayed awake until my dad woke up, and I just stayed with him until it was time to go to school. I didn't go in the house when I got home until he got home. Then I asked him to help rearrange my room. I moved my bed to behind my door and started sleeping with my door closed. To this day, I cannot sleep with my bed directly facing the door or with the door open. That's how traumatized I was. I never saw Christine again, but I hope that he never caught her.